We can go ahead and get started. Thanks for everyone for coming. I'm also hoping I'm recording this so it'll be available for others. There's some train the trainer going on with the faculty in another room, and I think they're running overtime, so they may start wandering in a little bit later. If you didn't get a handout, there's some in the back corner. That pretty much has everything that I'm going to try to cover today. For those that I don't know, I'm John Tanaka. I'm the Associate Director for the Ag Experiment Station and also the Director out at SARIC, which is the R&E Center out in Lingle. What we're going to do today, I hope others are going to get on. Had some trouble with the codes for Zoom, so I'm hoping they will get it. And Kelly, maybe you can send something to Camby and Brian, make sure they got the current code.
Okay.
Just in case.
Okay.
As I see, they're not on yet, but we'll go ahead. They're going to come on at the end. What I'm going to do today is just kind of go through some processes and procedures that we're trying to put in place at all of the R&E centers so that they're all kind of consistent for you. And also because of some of the new federal and state regulations that are coming down that we have to try to track a little bit better than we have in the past. And so, yeah, so the other session must have just got out because I see a whole bunch of you coming in. So we'll go through this. I'm going to go through some pretty general things, and then each of the R&E centers are going to talk about, if they get on, are going to talk about specific things that you need to be aware of for those centers themselves. And then we're always available for questions as well. The first thing to keep in mind, and there's handouts in the back there, is that these procedures are going to vary a little bit by each of the centers. We're going to try to standardize them as much as possible, but each of the centers is different. We're set up differently, locations are different, and so we're trying to adjust as we go. But the main point I want you to keep in mind, especially if you're a student working out there, is that the first time you come out to one of our centers, stop in the main office. Introduce yourself to the staff and find out where things are, because things are changing at all of the centers. And so if that's one thing you remember out of today's session, that's probably the most important thing. The one thing that we're implementing this year that hasn't occurred in the past, and the centers are still trying to figure out how to do this, but every time you come up to one of the R&E centers, you need to sign in and sign out. We've already had an incident this year where students came out on a Saturday. We didn't know they're out there, and they're calling us at 7:30 in the morning or 7:30 at night to get pulled out of the field. The other issue is some of our locations are remote, and as we'll talk about in a little bit, we have things like rattlesnakes and other fun creatures at some of the centers. We want you to be safe out there, so we want to know when you're out there and then when you leave. If we come in the next morning and you haven't signed out, we're probably going to be calling your major advisor or you over here on campus trying to search for you, and probably sending the crew out to try to find you as well. So we don't want anything to happen. So again, we're still trying to figure all this out and where things are, and that's why you need to stop in the office. By the time the field season starts, all of the centers will have these sorts of things in place and just need to figure out where they are. The other thing that's going on and why a bunch of you are just coming in are these worker protection standards. Does everyone know what those are? Most of you? Everyone? Okay. So these are new federal regulations that we have to follow at the centers. And for each of the centers, one of the things we'll be talking to you about when you come out is where the information is posted on both the safety and pesticide information that you need to know as you go in the field. Yes?
Do you have like a centralized system that informs the centers of what's being applied, or are you just going to be kind of sending an email out to farm manager,
So we'll cover that, but yeah. So there'll be a board posted at each of the centers, and in some centers in multiple locations, because we have different units of where pesticides are being applied, whether there's a restricted use entry, restricted entry on a particular field, and for how long. And so those will all be posted. Those are mostly for things that we're doing at the center. If you're a student or a faculty applying your own herbicides out there, you need to let us know and give us the data sheets or the information on what's sprayed and where, and if there's any agricultural use restrictions associated with that, and get it on that board. So you can write it on the board yourself, but we also need to keep the records at the R&E center. If they're experimental chemicals, I mean, we care, but we don't care for this purpose. We would like to know what was sprayed. I know sometimes you don't know what those are, but we do need to, we're trying to track all of that in our fields as well. So staying in touch with the farm manager or with the office staff or any of the staff out at the, when you're doing those kinds of things, just give us the information that you normally report. If there's questions. So a lot of what I'm talking about is still in flux, and we're trying to figure it out, as I said to the other group. So we're going to try to do our best to come up with procedures that work. We're relying on you guys that are actually out doing it to tell us if there's a better way to do things, because we're going to probably be a lot of trial and error this year, and we want to make it as efficient and easy to do for everyone in here and for the staff out at the centers. So yeah, that's the, if you have concern that there might be a restricted entry herbicide sprayed on or near your plot, before you leave campus, I'd recommend you call the center and ask, and we'll go look at the board. Rather than driving out to Powell or Lingle or Sheridan and getting there and going, what do you mean I can't get in my field for another 10 days or whatever? We don't want that to happen either. So easiest way is just give us a call or send us an email or in contact with someone up there. So on worker protection standards, if you're a graduate student, and that's why all the faculty were in the other session, it's up to your faculty advisor or maybe the department's going to figure out something for all the graduate students. But you need to be trained before you come out to the center. And what Brett Hess, the director, and I talked about this morning is just kind of a blanket policy at this point, is that anyone that comes out to work at the center needs to go through this training. I don't think it's real onerous for a student. My understanding is watching a video and having a trained trainer there to answer your questions. So it shouldn't take that long. We do need to have it documented. You need to let the centers know. If you do it once, you're covered for all the centers. You're also covered for going out, if you have research plots on private farms and ranches dealing with crops and pesticides, you're covered there as well. So you just need to let the farmer or the landowner know that you've been trained and that you can go out there. Yeah, so the last one was a question you had was, if you have any chemical with an ag use label, just let the center know after you've sprayed it, just so we can have it in our records. So the WPS training, I just threw this in here. Again, it's the same sort of thing. If you have a pesticide applicator's license, commercial or private, I understand, you're covered on this. You're actually a trainer if you've gone through, if you have your commercial license. Faculty, again, are responsible for training students, and we just need to have documentation. So for faculty, or if you have a license, we'd probably like a copy at the center. And if you've trained your students, we just need a list of their names and that you certify they've been trained. So safety, worker protection standards are certainly part of that, but we're concerned at all the centers about safety of everyone that comes out there. We're taking it real serious. We want you to make sure you're wearing appropriate clothes and footwear. If you're going out in the field, don't wear sandals, kind of thing. Make sure you bring hats, sunscreen, water, all of those kinds of things. At least at SARIC, if you forget water, we have water for you to take out in the field. Okay? We have bottled water that you can grab and take however many you need. The other centers, I don't know if they are, and I don't see that they're on yet, but bring your own water if you can, but if you forget it, don't say, well, I'll just go on the field anyway. Go grab some water and take it with you. And again, you know, besides just agricultural practices and the inherent dangers associated with that, we do have rattlesnakes at SARIC. There's bees, spiders, mosquitoes, all kinds of things that may want to take a bite out of you. So just go prepared. We have, well, if you forget bug spray, we have tons of it at SARIC. I'm guessing all of the other centers have it available too. So if you forget something, don't worry. Come to the office, and we'll try to do what we can to take care of you. On equipment, if you're going to one of the centers and you need to borrow equipment, call the farm manager, email the farm manager in advance. Make sure we have the equipment available and it's in the right place. Out at Sheridan, they're in 2 different locations 15 miles apart. They have one set of equipment. And so if you go up and you say, show up one day out at Wyarno and expect a tractor to be there, it may or may not be there if you haven't made arrangements, because they have to haul them back and forth. You know, or it may be that the piece of equipment that you're wanting to use at a center is being used by someone else. And so just good communication is probably the main point there. If you're going to use the equipment yourself, make sure you're trained on it, that you know how to use it. The farm manager and the assistant farm managers can help get you going. If you're hoping that they're going to use the equipment for you, again, you need to make those contacts far in advance so we can get it scheduled in there. Oh, hi, Camby.
Hi.
And so, you know, the one of the main things is knowing that, you know, the R&E centers are there to help you do your research. We're doing everything we can to do that, but you got to help us help you as well. At 2 of the centers, SARIC and Powell, we have some resident space available for you if you need to spend the night. And in that handout sheet, it shows you the rates that we charge. It's fairly cheap, especially for students. And I know some of you have stayed out at SARIC before, and one of the rules last year and the previous years was, well, you're supposed to wash your sheets and your towels and dry them before you leave. We've figured out that's not real practical. Okay, and so what we've asked on your last day is just strip the bed, throw the towels, and throw them in the laundry room, and we'll take care of it from there. But those are available out at SARIC. If you haven't stayed there lately, we have Dish TV. I don't know if Powell put Dish out there. No, but there is a TV and there is a DVD player, and so you do have that. Internet. Yeah, there's internet.
And Roku, so you can get on and watch Netflix and stuff if you have your own account.
Okay.
If you guys really want to improve the residents in Powell, get a fan. That would be great.
We'll check into it.
Okay.
And then we are also getting a travel trailer that'll be parked out at Powell, so it just gender issues of maybe being able to separate a little bit more, or for a longer term. At Sheridan, and I think Brian will talk about this a little bit later, if you do need to stay and don't want to stay in a hotel up there, they can make some arrangements with Sheridan College. Again, you need advance notice. You can't just show up one day and decide I'm going to spend the night and hope that works out. So this is kind of some CERIC stuff. At the labs, we do have wet and dry labs in the main office building. And we have other areas, you know, if you're just processing material that you can use. Just need to make arrangements, make sure they're available. If you're expecting equipment to be in there, need to let us know or call in advance and make sure it's actually there and available. And you're going to hear this probably from all the centers. The labs are not for long-term storage of your samples. And I think we still have some bags out at CERIC that we have no idea when they're from. They're probably going to get tossed pretty soon. But you can store things in there for the short term, you know, if you're going to process them and all that. But just work with us. Let us know. If you need longer term storage, let us know, and we'll try to find a place for you to use for that. Do need to label everything. We say with your name, if you're a graduate student, and your major advisor's name, when it was, the date on it, and what's in there. So we don't have to go digging through every bag and out there. At CERIC, again, we're trying to make this easier. Those of you that have been out there know under our lateral plot, or under our lateral sprinkler, variable rate sprinkler, there's something like 63 1.2 acre plots out there. And previous to last year, it was like, well, just start counting from the end, find your plot. Last year, we put up stakes with numbers and letters so you could kind of triangulate in on yours. This year, we're going to try putting these the discs are already out there. We're going to paint them here pretty soon. So at every corner, there's a white disc for every plot. And so we're going to, I think Kevin and I talked about painting on letters and numbers on each side so you can tell kind of where you are as you move into those fields. Again, trying to make it easier. Kevin has also put in driving paths to each one, so you'll be able to move between the plots and don't have to worry about driving over someone else's experiment, those kinds of things. Yeah, well, hopefully that's going to help make things a little bit easier. So CERIC, if you know, at the very top, kind of the right hand of that blue polygon is where the office is. And then most of the irrigated research is just right there south of the road. And then we have the circles where some production, and there's some research out there. We also have all this dry land out here, rangeland, and that's where we get concerned about not knowing where people are or if they're out there, and the safety issue comes in, because that's where also where a lot of the rattlesnakes are. Although there's rattlesnakes on the main part of the center as well. And so knowing you're out there, cell reception's not real good once you get out of the building area. We've had to put boosters in all of our farm vehicles so that the assistant farm managers and the farm manager can have cell service when they're out in the field. And so if you're expecting that, you may or may not, depending on your carrier, have good cell coverage. Out here, it's really, if you don't have those boosters, be pretty shaky whether you'd get cell coverage. Basically zero, yeah. So again, the safety issue becomes critical out there, knowing that you're out there. You know, at the end of the day, if you haven't checked back in, we may send someone out to check on you, just make sure everything's okay. And then also part of CERIC is the Rogers Research Site, which is up on Laramie Peak. I didn't put it on this map. It's about a 3-hour drive from CERIC up to there, but there's starting to be a little bit of research out there, and I can't remember if there's cell coverage up there at all.
Yes.
There is. So well, I guess, yeah, because we have a weather station with a cell thing on it. So at least you have that when you're up there in the middle of nowhere. So I'll turn it over to you, Canby.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Before you leave, sir? Just that we've got the kitchen and the meeting room space there, so if you bring your lunch over or whatever, there's plenty of area to, something out. We've got a prep kitchen there. I would mention though, not to be grouchy about it, but if there's food set out, it's probably because we're doing an extension activity. It's not for people that
Yeah.
John, we can't hear him talking.
Oh, he just said at Sarek, we also, where they're sitting, the kitchen and meeting room, people can go in there and eat their lunch. And if there's food set out, it's probably for an event, so don't just help yourself without asking. If you want to watch a TV show during lunch too, you can probably go in the house and just clean up after yourself. Okay, Canby.
Okay, so I don't think there's a whole lot that's very different from what John just talked about. I guess I would just stress, try and communicate with us in advance as much as possible that you're coming and what you're going to need to be doing while you're here to make sure that we have either the equipment available to help you or the people available to help you if you need more help with your projects. So other than that, I think everything's pretty much the same across the centers. On the next slide there, I just wanted to give you kind of a heads up on what, I don't know how well you can read that. So the bottom left-hand corner is the office where we're going to have the check-in, where you need to sign in when you come and go. And then that's also where we will have all of our spray records. So check all of your fields, see if it's been sprayed prior to entering any of those fields. Down there in the bottom center, the top dot right there, we have a chemical storage shed. That's also going to be where the eye wash and shower / hose is to.
We're going to have to talk about that.
And just below that is the restroom facility and the lab down there. We do have some equipment available in our labs. It's not real extensive. We've got some drying ovens, scales, seed cleaners, stuff like that. So again, just let me know in advance to make sure that we have the equipment you need or to make other arrangements as necessary.
And if you haven't been out there, the house that you can rent a room in is right there. So Brian.
John, just out of curiosity, what's the crowd in Laramie look like? I don't know who I'm talking to.
Room 41 is full.
Is it full of? Oh, there you go. Hi guys.
how's it going?
So I wasn't exactly sure, who all we'd be talking to. I don't have a lot of other things to add that are completely unique at this point in time. I did think there might be a few folks in the room that maybe were not familiar with what we have available up here in Sheridan, and so I'll reiterate the importance of communication and advance notification if folks are coming up to do things with us, and not as much just for our sake, but also for your sake, so that we can be ready to give you the service you need when you come up here. We are split 2 locations that are about 15 miles apart, and it's not 3 hours like the Rogers Research Site, but our time and efforts are split pretty much equally between the 2 locations. So north and east of Sheridan, we've got our YRNO site, primarily dry land, native plant research. We've got drying ovens and some kind of dirty lab space and storage space and things out there. The Adams Ranch that is just south of Sheridan, that's where our greenhouse space is, really new, nice greenhouse space. We've got some unused lab space that's here currently that is available for people to set up shop in, process samples and things like that while you're here. One of the things that we've done the past few years is kind of cost share with folks. that if they want an undergraduate student here to focus on research and they don't want to drive back and forth, and you're willing to let us use them on other things for part of the time, we can do some cost share to try to get research support that we don't currently have available. We will have worker protection standard information at both of our locations. We have an office at each site. We're still kind of working out the details on where everything will be. I will say that the water quality at Wyarno is such that you may be dirtier after you go through the safety wash. And then I would say one other somewhat unique thing that we have here is there's pretty much a 24-hour presence at our Wyarno station. And if people show up at 11:30 at night to drop off equipment, which has happened more frequently than I thought it would, you may have the unpleasant experience of seeing me in my pajamas running out to see who's out there. But just let us know if you're coming. So I don't think I have anything else to add.
Okay. We'll come back to questions at the end. So Doug, you want to come up here and
So I'm not going to add a lot except just to say that.
oh yeah, come over here so they can hear you.
I don't have a lot to add to what John has said, except we're still developing a lot of this on the go as we try to put everything together. Right now, our biggest concern is the greenhouse, and for years we've had an information board out there that provides information on when applications of chemicals have been made and what the REI is for that. We've also had signs on the greenhouses where that information is posted as well to limit entry. So we'll continue that. What we'll add to that information board and center, which is located right there by the office as you go into the greenhouse, is we'll have a sign in and out sheet for the same purposes as the other centers. So we're going to ask that everybody that comes out there signs in and out. We will then, if the REI exceeds 48 hours on the outdoor plots, they will be posted. If the REI for the greenhouses exceeds 4 hours, they will have additional sign postage to indicate that. And so we're not going to change a lot out at the greenhouse because we've already had that in place for quite a few years. But we will add a few things. And so, again, hopefully to meet all the WPS standards. Yes.
How are we defining, we talked about this in the WS training, how are we defining if we're signing just the research area, but there's more signage added on, just signing it to the entire field, when everybody who wants to go in that field has that PPE on during that reentry, early reentry interval. It's kind of seems a little bit up in the air. So.
Yeah, so the question is how we're defining a field for marking. I know under, and Camby, you might address this as well, under our lateral where we have the 63 different plots, it'll put you by plot because we're going to have different things going on in different plots, and we're not going to restrict everyone from doing their research if one person sprays. We have to be aware of drift issues and those kinds of things as well. But it'll be by plot. Oh, Camby, you want to add to that? I'll get to you.
So ours will be the same way. We'll have a map posted by our board that'll show you how the plots are laid out. And then the same idea, there'll be multiple plots in one study. We'll let you know which ones are affected and which ones are not. And you should be able to enter a separate plot and not be affected by what was sprayed in a different study.
Okay, Wendy?
Okay, so my question kind of goes back to Jeff, your presentation just a little bit ago. To post for the fields, it's only 48 hours, right? Greater than 48 hours. So like a lot of our re-entry intervals will only be like 24 hours or something like that. So those won't have to be posted.
Correct.
Correct.
Unless it specifies on the label.
Yeah. So the comment here is that if it's less than 48 hours, it doesn't have to be posted unless the label says it has to be posted.
But John, can you hear me?
Yep.
That is posted out by the field. I just want to be clear, that doesn't mean it won't be posted on the WPS boards, and that we don't need to know about the spraying, and that we don't need to have that spraying logged. So it may not be posted in the field, but that's why you need to come and check in, because if something was sprayed that has a shorter REI, that's where you'll find that information. And Kevin or the farm manager at each station always needs to know when you're spraying, even if it's a research use product, because we need to know what's going on in the fields. That's separate from WPS, but the centers always need to know, and we're going to do our best to have that posted, again, for safety reasons. So the field posting and board posting, I just want to be clear, are different things.
Yeah, and I'll also add that if you're spraying your own chemicals that has an ag use label that says there's an REI, you need to let us know. We have signs to post it if it's greater than 48 hours, because we're also responsible to take those signs down on time. As Jeff tells us in our training, we get fined for leaving them up too long too.
I have a question for Doug. Yes. So at the greenhouse center, do you want people checking in and out if they're anywhere on that facility? Like say I'm going to pop into my lab, but not go into the greenhouse or into the field. You still want to check in and check out?
Yes, please. Pete.
I'd like to suggest, what is the plan for putting that signing board? For me, it's going to be almost right by the door where I trip over it. I've been going in and out of there for 20 years.
You're going to have to change your habits.
The plan is to put it right where the information board is now, where you stop by the office there to look to see what's been sprayed and what the REIs are and those kind of things. So that's
on the door about signing.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have all that.
What was that last question? We couldn't hear it.
So the question is, so more at the greenhouse, but well, it's at every place, you know, reminding you all that you need to sign in every time you go out and where the sign-in sheet is. Pete Stahl, he's going, well, he's been going there for 20 years. Unless it hits him in the face, he's probably going to forget. So we'll have lots of signs. At Sarek, we've already had big signs made for the entrances to remind you when you come to stop in. And I don't know if the other centers
right in the middle of the hallway, so you can't have to walk around.
I'm sorry to belabor this point,
That's all right.
If someone teaches them, should they be planning in and out classes? Like I'm just like
I don't think so.
No.
Well, they're in the
Well, so
Yeah.
So this is for worker protection standard. The students in your class are not workers. Okay. I'm looking at Jeff right now. So the yeah. So the question was, what if a class comes out and is working, and so what I think the decision was, if you just get it on the syllabus, give us your class list, so we know when you're out there, and that should suffice. And the students have all been gone through the training.
So go ahead, Karen.
Okay. That was just a comment on. So Karen needs to come.
Just want to add another thing. Because these are local. People either during the week time, during the holiday time. So there should be some flexibility.
The sign-up sheets and the boards will be available 24/7. At the greenhouse, it's locked, so if you don't have a key, you can't get in there anyway. Yeah. Well, we'll have pins there. Come on. So at the other centers and other locations, if you're coming on weekend, it'd be nice if you called and let us know. But the sign-up sheets will be available 24/7, and we'll show you where those are. We're having to reconfigure some of our buildings to make that happen. But again, we're trying to take this real serious, and so we're making those investments.
I mean, the fines for violations are pretty steep, so we can't, as Brett said earlier, he doesn't have the budget to pay for the fine. So
Was my 18,000 a day right?
yeah.
I would also add that we are exploring creative solutions for the sign in, sign out thing. We're looking at some different options as well.
And welcome, along those lines, welcome any suggestions to make it most efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I started this with. If you guys can think of more efficient ways to do this and still accomplish what we need to do to stay within the law and the regulations, we're more than happy to try to figure out how to make it work. So this is our scramble right now, trying to do all this before the field season starts. And so we're making our best guess, but you need to help us. So Jay, and then come back.
Yeah, I prefer that information on what field use.
No. You can, so the question is are these spraying records going to be available online? At this point, no. Calling and emailing, we can go look at the board real quick. It's going to be right there. That's why I say call before you come out if you have any concerns, and we can. Anyone that answers the phone can go look. It's just down the hall at Sarek. At the other centers, I assume it's the same business hours. So Sarek's business hours are 7 to 4. Okay, that's when most of the time someone will be in the office. Powell is 7:30 to 4:30, I believe. Sheridan?
It depends.
It depends. And probably Laramie, it depends.
Most of my staff starts at 7, and or earlier in some cases. But if usually they're early.
If you shoot us an email, someone will see it. So.
John, we had a question up here. Just for clarification, I mean, for those of us that are on the center, stationed here all the time, or summer workers that are here that are checking in with us and checking out when they leave in person, do we have to have written records of their sign in and sign out? Or like if I leave Adams Ranch and drive out to Wyarno, do I have to sign out of Adams Ranch and go sign in to, I mean, that's
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, this is just
Brian,
for people that we don't know are there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But just to follow up with that, I mean, like for me, I'm in and out of the field some days and other days not. So I will have myself and any students I have follow the same rules. So if we're starting a day and we're going to be in the lateral and then up in the dry land, I'll sign us out and just say that's where we're going to be across the whole farm, just so that they know. So I don't know. I feel like even though we're at the centers, we should follow the rules because it's the same thing. If I get stranded up there, if something happens, I want my crew and my people to be safe and follow the same basic rules, because that's the big part of it too, is just that safety aspect.
Well, but there doesn't have to be a written record. So what we do is we've got a group text with everybody on staff during the summer. We can send a text that goes to everybody and we know where we are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to find a sign-in sheet every time I change location.
Yeah, I think for the individual center employees, we'll just have to figure out what works best for us.
So, does anybody else have a question? I wanted to finish up Laramie R&D Center.
Yeah.
So I just want to give a suggestion. If you need to use the YOID to get into this building, use that to scan and then any computer who's supporting it.
If the dean would give us 5,000 or 10,000 per door.
No problem.
So Brian talked about they talked about putting the YOID on the doors. So. But Brian is looking at an online app where there's a sign-in, sign-out app. We didn't even know such a thing existed, but apparently it does, where you can sign. So again, if you have self-service, it works great. If you don't have self-service, it doesn't really work.
You said something about calling in, work on the weekend.
Just letting us know you're out there.
It's just,
John, the only issue with that app is that if they don't at least stop in at the office, they can't look at the WPS
Right.
board and the
Yeah.
chemical board. So, you know, there is, especially at the start of the day, an important reason to stop and look
Yeah,
at that.
but that's the comment I made to Brian too. It doesn't force you to come in and look at the board. So again, remember signing in, but it's also taking a quick glance at that board before you head to the field. Every time you're out there. Yeah. Yes.
So kind of based on Jay's comment too, it kind of screams to me there should be some online system to be able to report things that they're doing as opposed to just sending an email. And Andrew shaking his head vigorously no.
The alternative is not. Who's going to manage that website?
Yeah.
I know. The alternative is just going to be like sending an email and hoping that it gets to Kevin or whoever.
Yeah, just call ahead. Pesticides don't get applied every day at Sarah
Yeah.
unless it's in a pesticide trial, which you guys have no business being in anyway. So just, stay in your own fields. And they will grow.
Yeah.
You know, if we need to make adjustments, if it becomes really obvious.
Kevin wanted to add to that comment that you should know where your fields are too.
Wow, we'll answer questions.
Sure. So I think we need to make this check-in, check-out sheet flexible. Especially it will be too much inconvenient for us. Like for example, my student, they might need to go nighttime to water their plant. They have 4 hours interval, but they need to go in the weekend mainly to do their work. So if every time they go only 2 minutes to water, look at the plants and come back, it's really inconvenient every time. We can nobody there. Who we should.
I guess
don't
maybe.
want to call it a-
I guess maybe. So the question is trying to make the sign in, sign out flexible. If you're at the center, you need to sign in when you get there. You need to sign out when you leave. What you do between those times, we don't really care. Yeah. Just sign in when you get there because you have to stop and look at the board, and the sign-in sheet's going to be right there. When you leave, you have to stop in and sign out so that we know you're not on the center anymore. So we don't go send the whole crew out looking for you. And if you're in cornfields and we have to go look for you, we got to look down every row to make sure you didn't pass out.
You know, a lot of this.
Which sounds funny, but
isn't
it's
convenient,
real.
but it's something that we got to do. And like I said, the fines are not worth, if it takes you 2 seconds to sign your name that you're in and 2 out, that $18,750 for an incident is
Per day.
Per day, per person. That 2 seconds is inconsequential as far as I'm concerned. So, I know it's an inconvenience, but it's stuff we got to do to
And
abide by the law.
looks like Jeff left, but he and I were talking. You're back there. He said the EPA inspector came to a session up in Powell yesterday. So they're aware that this is going on and they may come check on us and do an audit. Said the first time might be a warning, but if we don't fix it, then the fines start kicking in. Yeah. Probably the one you're at. Yeah, Mark.
Is there any signing requirement for acres? How is that?
The question is whether there's a sign-in for acres, and I don't think so, but I think the employee that's running that, or the student in charge, probably needs to be trained.
And the
I
reason-
know they're organic out there, but we've had that discussion
But
with Linda.
they're next to the R&E center. They border the
Is that university land?
Yeah. So they probably need to be trained
They're
and,
making money and they're selling something for money. I'm pretty sure Jeff said they have to have worker protection. Yep.
So for the worker protection safety training, we are offering at the greenhouse. Next week, there'll be 2 sessions. The following week, there'll be 2 sessions that you can go and take that training and be trained. And that's good across any of the R&E centers. Okay, but we're trying to get everybody trained up out at the greenhouse by April 15th. And I have actually imposed the date of April 15th. If you're not trained by that date, you will not be allowed on the greenhouse complex to work. As far as the livestock center, currently at this time, we do not have anything in place for sign in, sign out. That doesn't mean we're not looking at doing something like that out there, because on occasion we do spray and use pesticides, mostly herbicides out in that area. And just from a safety standpoint, we may incorporate something.
Yeah.
So, but nothing is in place at this point in time.
We have periodical, because we hire students like for summer, we have like 1st of May, 1st of June, or periodic.
You're a trainer.
Yeah.
Well,
You can train now. So
Yes.
you're a trainer. So
Yeah, so Doug was
there's
just
a
talking
need,
about
you can train.
training at the greenhouse, but question came up for students that start later in the year, and faculty, a lot of faculty are now trained to be trainers. So just train them up before they show up at the centers.
Before Jeff leaves.
Jeff,
Do we train a person that isn't our employee? We just went through the train the trainer. Do we train a person that is, let's say, on ours? Can I train his person? Like be hired person, let's say he's out. Yes.
It's no
Yeah.
different than the greenhouse operation.
yeah, the discussion is once you're trained as a trainer, you can train anyone
Except yourself.
except yourself. But you've already been trained.
John, what certification are they going to provide so that we know that they were trained?
I think that's something we need to work on. I think it's Jeff. So the certification that a faculty or a department needs to provide that a student's been trained, can they just send us a letter with the names and sign that they certify they're trained?
Yes, but I would recommend that we create something that is a card that the student can carry that says, hey, I'm trained, in case there's, so they know that that card goes with that person.
Okay. So Jeff is suggesting that we create a card that we can have the students carry that certifies that they're trained. And we'll work on that. So it's a suggestion of your tax, but I don't know. Yeah, Renda?
This is just specific to that. If someone's been trained in the last year at the greenhouse, are they okay, or is this a new thing? Like if I have someone who was trained 6 months ago, are they cool, or should they
The
just check with?
question is previous training, how, if they were trained 6 months ago, do they still need to be trained under the new standard?
Should they just ask Brian?
So the information in the training, did they go through the greenhouse?
Yeah.
It hasn't changed, so they are still,
As long as it's been in the last calendar year or something?
it's only valid for 12 months.
Okay.
Okay, so they went through it 6 months ago, they'll have to go through it
6 months.
in 6 months, right?
So is that true of all training?
Which training? The trainer training?
No, the WPS, student worker and handler. Yeah, so the training's only valid for 12 months. Okay. So we'll be doing this again next year.
One of the other things I think John just touched on is the other thing we're doing at all the centers is we're getting our staff trained up on first aid and CPR training as part of this. And so I'm always amazed every year that goes by that we probably don't have any more severe incidences than we do at least at the Laramie R&E Center, where we need emergency medical attention. And so we're going to train up all our people on that to try to help alleviate that. It's not so bad for us because we're fairly close to town, but like Lingo, it's, it could be 15, 20 minutes getting help out there.
And if you're out of Warno, it's probably even longer.
Yeah.
So we also keep first aid supplies at all the centers and all our vehicles. So, if you get a cut and need a Band-Aid, don't just keep sucking on your chemical laced finger. So. Yeah.
So my understanding, each station is going to provide training soon. Each station will their own training. Is that the final one, or we have to go again?
Well, no, the training at the centers is just stopping in and finding out where all this stuff is. Because I know out at Sarek, we're still bouncing around ideas, and we haven't even got to the dryland part of the center of what we're going to have out there. But I think we know where things are going to be at the office building. But it's mostly finding out where that stuff is, and so that the office staff and the farm managers know who you are. Because if they see someone out in the field playing in a plot and they don't know you, they may come out and start asking questions.
So especially for the first day, if I take a student.
Yeah, just come in. It'll only take 5-10 minutes. So it's not, we're not trying to make this, we're going to keep you there all day and do a training.
To go with that, John, I think it's really important for them to know who we are too. So some students are familiar out here, but just to know who your contact people are, get some faces so that if something happens, you feel comfortable contacting us. I mean, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So it's all important.
Yeah, and what we haven't said is there are faculty stationed at all of the off-campus. So if you as a student have a question, they might be able to answer it for you. So, any other questions?
One other thing just to think about up here is our Adams Ranch property. Our gates are locked outside of probably 5 in the morning to 5 at night. And that is at request of the owners of the property that we lease from, because they have a lot of had a lot of trespass recreation on the property, and they've asked us to keep it locked. So if you're going to need access to any of the Adams Ranch stuff outside of what I'd say probably 5 to 5, you have to touch base with us anyway so we can get those gates unlocked.
And nothing at Powell or Sarek is locked, so which makes it more of a challenge. Okay. Any other questions? Again, if you think of things that can make it more efficient once we all get into this, let us know. Nothing's written in stone at this point other than the WPS stuff, right?
Correct.
So, and we'll work. We're trying to work as a team among all the centers, try to standardize things a little bit. So if you go to one, you kind of know how things work, and it won't be a total new surprise for you. But again, there are unique things at each of the centers to be aware of. Okay. So thank you for coming. Hope we move together safely.
I didn't hear that.
No.
I said at the livestock farm, we're not, at this point, we don't have anything in place for sign in, sign out, but we're looking at that. And so we'll if we decide to implement something, we'll let everybody know.
And then you also have the McGuire Ranch.
Yeah, the McGuire Ranch up north and east of town. We don't do much in terms of spraying and stuff up there. So, and that, I mean, there's no buildings or anything up there. But
they just need to let you know if they're going out.
Yeah, we just would like to know if we're going, if you're going up there that you'll be up there, because we do have cattle and stuff there in the summertime. So.
Yeah, do we need to sign up multiple times if we go multiple times in a day? If we're just going
No, sign in when you get there and sign in when you leave.
Well,
Yeah, every day.
Once in a day.
Yeah.
Not doing multiple times going in and out.
No.
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
Hey, John.